Welcome in, everyone. I'm Matt. I'm here with Paul. Say hi, Paul.
Hi, Paul.
We're back in the studio today. It's been a little rainy for our first week off for the summer. Have you enjoyed the rain, Paul?
There's been a couple times where I've just been out there and even today, just in it and let it just rain down. And then the rest of it,
Yeah, we've talked before. I'm not a guy who enjoys the rain and the clouds. I thank the Lord for it. I'm never going to gripe about rain, but boy, I am hungry for some sunshine, man. That the rain sort of finished up this morning and that sun came out and I wanted badly to just go out and bask in it. So that's been cool. Anyways, today we are going to talk weapons of choice. Welcome to Downright Mindful. Stories that stick, questions that matter, and conversations that make you think. Let's get right down to it.
I'm here to learn today, Matt Parrish. You ready?
Yep.
How long were you a police officer?
13 years and some change, approaching 14. Now that's a sheriff's deputy. Police officer, as most people would describe, probably 3 years. Patrol.
Explain that.
Yeah, I'm at the sheriff's office from 2004 to 2018. Not all of those years are as a patrolman on the street. Very few of those years are as a patrolman on the street.
So that's what a police officer is?
Well, none of those, if we start breaking down what a police officer is.
Break it down. I am here to learn.
I've never been a police officer.
See, that makes zero sense to me.
I know.
So go.
I know. If you go down to the city of Cleveland, in that municipality, they have a police department. Patrolling the streets for that police department are police officers. But where I was, it's a sheriff's office.
Okay.
We call it an office because he's an elected official. He's not appointed, so he's not over a department. He's over his office. And
pause. So the chief of police in Cleveland is appointed.
That's right.
By the mayor. Yeah,
the mayor and the city commission. When it gets to that level, I'd have to investigate. That's an Estes question. Do they have a say in his appointment? I don't know the answer to that.
Okay. So that's why you're not a police officer.
Yeah. So the real answer is I've never been a police officer.
So can I still go with 13 years? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah, that's when I'm deputized for 13 and some change, yeah.
That sounds like Wild Wild West kind of stuff. Huh. Speaking of... This is my true education of the day. This is my true curiosity because I came across something.
Okay.
And I got 2 lanes I want to travel. Here's the first one. What was your choice of weapons all those years? Year one, like what do they give you? Day one.
A 40 caliber Glock.
Okay.
It's a Model 22.
Keep going.
I remember, mine's a peculiar story. I'm 20 years old. They can certify me and I can carry this weapon on duty, but I couldn't go to Walmart and purchase bullets for it.
Because you were 20.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so did they give you bullets?
Yeah.
Okay, I figured they did.
Yeah.
Okay, how long were you carrying that?
13 years and some change. Yeah, I mean, that's the staple of a police officer or a sheriff's deputy nowadays is his sidearm. And that's what that was. Now, there's been others, and I'm sure you'll get there in the conversation. But yeah, that's the sort of the staple. That's to fight your way to a bigger gun, because you're going to have long rifles and shotguns at your disposal, especially as a patrol officer. And a sidearm essentially is just in case I need to throw down some, stop a threat, first of all, or throw down some cover fire to get to that rifle.
So I said choice of weapons, and you went straight to a gun. What else you got on you? Day one.
Well, do you want me to hijack the conversation and tell you what the most important weapon a police officer has is?
Yes.
Okay. So a police officer's most important weapon for himself is his verbal communication. His ability to use his, not only verbal, but nonverbals are a big deal. My ability to de-escalate a situation or steer a confrontation. I believe his most important weapon this is a little context here. It's contextual. I think if you back up and look at the 30,000 foot view, I believe his most important weapon for serving the sheriff's constituents, that community, that jurisdiction, is his ink pen. Because that's, if someone is victimized by another person, and I go and I use verbal communication to keep myself from getting beat up during an arrest, I make the arrest, but everything that happens from then forward has to do with how well I can convey those happenings in written word. That's what they're going to relent to in the courtroom, and it's what's going to eventually put that person behind bars if that's the justice that is decided for that person.
All right. Voice, ink, 30,000 feet. Zoom back in.
Okay.
Back to your belt.
Okay.
What else you got? Day one. What do they give you? What's standard issue?
Then and now even, you're going to get that Glock. You're going to get some handcuffs. You're going to get some extra magazines for that Glock. You're going to get a taser, which is a less lethal tool where I can maybe subdue somebody or gain control of them with a little less than a firearm and a little more than a arm bar.
So being a teacher is fun. Being a teacher of the kid next door is kind of fun. And then when that kid grows up and becomes something and then comes over to his neighbor's house and knocks on the door and shows videos of him getting tased as part of the process of carrying a taser, that's kind of cool and kind of fun as well.
Yeah.
Did you have to get tased in order to?
I did.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Fun, scary, nervous, all.
Yeah.
More.
Some good lessons learned there because it was, it wasn't the same day, but it was like back-to-back days with pepper spray because we had to get sprayed with.
Okay, hold on. They weren't back-to-back days, back-to-back weeks. I mean, this is part of training.
They weren't the same day.
Yeah.
They were probably back-to-back. I mean, they were very close to each other.
Today and tomorrow will be.
It's possible. Yeah. It could have been, one's on a Tuesday, the other's on a Friday.
Blow my mind either way. Yeah. Okay. Tell me about it.
So OC spray, that's oleoresin capsicum. That's the oil of the cayenne pepper. It's placed in a can, being carried by either an alcohol base or a water base, depending on what brand you're carrying. The kind that I was certified with was an alcohol base. It's called Freeze Plus P. And some people my age that were the police remember this stuff. And if I spray a little dot on that table right there, we're going to clear this room. We're not going to be able to.
Is it different now? Is that why you said it that way?
A lot of people went away from alcohol based when tasers became so big because there was this idea that if I soak someone in alcohol and then in the mix of things, someone tases them and starts applying 50,000 volts of electricity to them, they could burst into flames. Now, it's been tested, and it could be made to happen. I don't know of any cases where it's happened to a human. Because if you're using OC spray properly, you're not soaking them with alcohol. You're going and you're letting that alcohol dissipate in the air, and they're getting hit with the oily resin.
How's that different than bear spray?
I don't know. I would say it's not that different. I've seen YouTube videos of bear spray being used pretty properly, and it's very short bursts like that. I'd say they're kin. I don't know bear spray at all.
Were you watching bear videos on YouTube? Is
No,
that how you saw that?
No, it may not have been YouTube. It may have been scrolling the TikTok or the Instagram reels or something. At some point, I saw someone have to deploy bear spray on a bear, and and that bear just got a little taste of it and just took off, man. But it wasn't like they didn't hose it down, which that made sense to me.
Sure. Because you have some experience.
Sure.
All right, go back to it's pepper spray day. It's taser day.
Yeah.
Tell me that story. Or if someone else's story is more entertaining than yours, tell their story. I don't care.
Mine's not that entertaining, but I did learn one of the most valuable lessons I've ever learned, and I tell my students this all the time. Because on the first day of my class, you're going to stand up in the class and you're going to speak.
You tase your kids?
No, I don't tase anybody.
Pepper spray?
No.
Okay. I was checking.
You're gonna stand up and you're gonna speak in front of the class on a topic that you're not prepared for. You know, I'll give you a random word. It might be mayonnaise. And when it comes your turn, you're going to stand up and try your best to get through 2 minutes about mayonnaise. And you can be creative. You can try to be funny. Whatever you do, you're going to stand up.
This is those impromptu speeches we were talking about the other day.
Yeah.
Okay.
We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
It's the ultimate icebreaker for a kid in our day and age. These are mostly sophomores that most of them would just as soon disappear into the wall than to stand up and talk. But, communication's a big deal in my class, and it's a way to kind of and I give them a little lead in like, hey, if anybody in here gives a crap about how good of a public speaker their brethren are, raise your hand. Nobody ever raised their hand because they don't care. Who's going to judge their classmate for not being a good public speaker right now? Raise your hand. Nobody raises their hand because they're not. But I'm saying all that to say, I tell my kids I learned waiting to be tased, watching other people be tased, and waiting to be pepper sprayed, watching other people roll around in snot and sneer in agony. The worst part of both of those is waiting in line. It's the waiting. It's the nervousness. It's the unsureties. It's always best to just be that guy. I'll say, who's that guy or girl in the room? And they know what I'm saying is, give me a volunteer.
Yeah. So did you volunteer to go first, pepper spray, taser?
No, I should have. Yep. I should have, because once a taser only lasts 5 seconds. In 5 seconds, it's over. It's not like in the movies where you're droggy and you're knocked out. None of that. It's over. You don't feel it any longer. So it's okay. From the time you could volunteer to 5 seconds of 50,000 volts, it's over.
A lot of volts, man.
Yeah. Now, pepper spray is different. You're going to feel that for a while, and then it's going to cool off, and you're going to go home and get in the shower, and it runs downhill, and it reactivates, and it's horrible.
Downhill, huh?
Yeah. They were going to spray me across the eye with the pepper spray. They explained this to me, how I'm going to go from the center of your nose across your eye. And just there's a reaction that happens, and I turned and they filled my ear with pepper spray. And that was the worst part of it for me, was the ears. Some people's skin reacts different to it. Some fair skinned people are out there and they look like they've been burned, like they're swelling up, and it wasn't, the pepper spray for me wasn't near what it was for other people, fair skinned folks. They've got tubs of water out there, and they've got some milk out there, and they've got some baby oil out there. All the things that people say, oh, this will help. They keep those things around, and you can use them however you want. And I remember the day that I got sprayed, it was drizzling rain, not the kind of rain that would soak you, but it's just like a mist in the air. And it was cloudy, and it was cool, and there was a constant breeze blowing. So they give you a partner. You got a partner. This person they're going to be responsible for taking care of you for a few minutes while you get your bearings back. And I remember my partner, his name was James Lewis. He was like, "What do you need?" And I was like, "I don't need nothing. Stop talking to me." And
That's what you needed.
I walked out to the end of the sidewalk, and I turned toward that wind, and I just laid my head back, and I just let that mist hit my face and that wind blow, and it was okay.
There you go. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
Okay. So the old Billy stick from back in the day.
The belly stick?
Billy stick? Am I saying that right?
You're talking about like a PR-24. It looks like
Hold on.
It looks like a stick with another stick
coming out the side. Isn't that what it's called, though, back in the day?
Yeah.
A Billy stick.
A Billy stick.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Not a belly. Billy.
I thought you were saying belly stick.
No, Billy stick.
I was like, well, yeah, I had a hepatitis round of shots that prevented me from catching hepatitis B. No.
First of all, why was it called a Billy stick back in the day? Have you ever carried one?
I've never carried one. What I carried was
standard issue anywhere.
It's probably still standard issue at some police departments. I don't know of any. But now what you're going to find to be mostly standard issued is an expandable baton. And one of the brand names that's popular, we call it a ASP, ASP. That's a brand, but it's just it's a heavy baton. You don't want to get struck with one, but it collapses down to about 6 inches in length, and you can just sling it, and it expands out to probably 2 feet or more. But yeah, you go, in any good police academy, you're going to go through some PPCT training. That's pressure point control tactics. I'm learning how to control you without trying not to injure you or cause you harm. And that ASP baton is going to be included in that training.
So is that part of those as well, that you're going to get struck by this to learn how to strike?
No, not necessarily. They'll when they're teaching you a pressure point, they'll make you feel it, but they're not going to stand back and try to hit you in the common peroneal and cause your leg to lose feeling for an hour. They don't want to do that. But yeah, I used to make joke. It used to be required that you had to be tased to be certified by Taser to carry. Now it's not the case. But we used to
How you
say,
feel about that? You think it should be?
No, I'm okay with it. And here's why. And this was us being little knuckleheads back then, but we'd be like, why do we got to be tased to carry this? And they're like, well, should you ever sit on a witness stand and an attorney ask you, do you know what it feels like to be tased? You can answer yes. And I'm like, well, they didn't shoot me with this Glock to certify me to. But that was a joke then. But now it just makes sense. I don't know why you would have to be tased.
Empathy. No, I'm going to say it like this: empathy. I'm not asking that question. Empathy.
I mean, I hear the idea.
Yeah, you don't like that idea?
No, I'm just going to say if the police tell you to do something, do it. Yeah, I'll empathize with you. Hey, if the police burst in my door right now, I know that I've done nothing wrong. But if the police burst in my door right now with weapons pointed at me and say, get on the ground, guess what I'm doing? I'm going to get on the ground. We'll work this out in court later. I'm not going to try to fist fight the police. I can't get on board I can't empathize with that at all. I can't. Not in my daily life. Not in your daily life.
Okay. How about other people's daily lives?
Give me an example.
Someone who has not had our experience. There's plenty of folks who live in plenty of areas where their interaction with police have not been ours. We've had this conversation somewhere along the way.
What you'd have to float to me as an idea for me to get on board is that the best choice for that person in a moment where the police are trying to gain some sort of compliance is to resist right then and not in a courtroom.
Explain. Resist in a courtroom?
Yeah.
No, I don't know what you mean.
Yeah, they're going to, okay, I'll go back to the example I gave you. I know I've done nothing wrong. There's no evidence of a crime in this house, factually. The police burst in, get on the ground.
Pause. Why did they just burst in?
I don't know. It's just a scenario. That's part of the scenario.
Well, my human response is to not do what I'm told because someone just burst in my house. I haven't done anything.
Well, you're going to get your butt whipped by the police.
That's kind of going where I'm going with this.
I'm with you. I'm going with you.
Okay, well, then you keep going.
You lose. Yeah. Immediately you lose. You get hurt. You get put in the hospital. Something happens. It's hard to control a grown man without hurting him. But they're going to control you. You understand that?
Why are they in my house?
They believe there's a crime in here.
I'm not even a gun-toting person. Can't someone grab their weapon of choice in the house because someone just broke in? Do the police get a free pass if I haven't done anything?
These people are yelling, police, police, police.
Right. I get it.
They're not sneaking up.
I have not lived your life. I've only watched my shows and movies. But if we're going to make this personal, and I'm a person who has weapons, my wife is chuckling right now because she knows, I got nothing to pick up except a golf club or a baseball bat, no matter whether it's a wild animal or a wild human or a police officer. Just go with me on this.
Sure.
But I can think of my gun-toting friends who have a swagger that they wouldn't let anyone do anything. And I mean, in my imagination, I think some of these dudes that I have in my thoughts right now wouldn't even let the police come in if they haven't done anything and treat them like that. I mean, this is a scenario we've created. Maybe it's not a realistic scenario. I don't know.
It's happened before.
Yep, for sure. Just to go back to, we said neither one of us in our lives have ever had that. I mean, I got people in my family that they were the ones in the house. The police have come in looking for that other family member who wasn't there. And now they have a decision to make of how they're going to respond.
Sure.
So maybe that's where I'll kind of connect where you're going with this. But keep going, because I did interrupt you and,
Yeah, well, this is the example that I've laid out is super extreme. But you're going to hear police, SWAT, something like that. You're going to know it's the police. If you choose to not comply in that moment, bad choice. Bad choice.
That's bad choice upon bad choice. Didn't they make a bad choice breaking in and I haven't committed a crime?
Yeah, sure. That'll come out.
Okay.
This is America. We have a pretty good court system. We'll find that out. But we can't find it out if you're dead because you thought, I'm going to fight this SWAT team right now.
My silence is me
You're weighing it. I know.
bobbing my head back and forth. Going,
I'm letting you think about it.
But I've got nothing that I can draw upon.
Let's take it less extreme.
Okay.
We're on a traffic stop.
Okay.
We've been on a traffic stop recently.
Yes.
Very, very easy, encounter. Pretty simple. Now, if that gentleman had said to me, "Sir, please step out of the car," how do I respond? I don't want to step out of the car. Do I try to have a little war of words with him? Well, why? Why do you want me to step out of the car?
Are you a guy, because of your experience, is going to step out of that car immediately?
100%.
You're not going to ask one question.
Nope.
It's interesting.
Because I know a litany of reasons that he could ask me to step out of the car. I may have pulled over in a bad spot and he don't want to stand there and talk to me and he wants to get me around. Maybe he's got a question for it. Maybe he's worried about something with my passenger and he just wants to separate me. Maybe he's catching a smell and he's not sure of what it is, so he wants to separate me from the car and see if it's coming from me or if it's coming from... There's a million different reasons.
Well, zoom 30,000 feet.
Yeah.
Remember when you said words?
Mm-hmm.
So like in that moment, does a more experienced or a more fill in the blank with whatever is most appropriate here, police officer give us more words in the initial request?
Yeah, I'm a fan of anytime you can disclose information, you disclose information. Okay. And you answer the questions in that driver's mind before they even know to ask them.
Feel better. All right, we zoom back in.
But there are situations where we'll discuss it when you step out of the car.
Okay.
Because you're not always the history teacher from Walker Valley High School just riding through Spencer, Tennessee. Sometimes you're a wanted individual, or sometimes we just saw this guy before you picked him up. He stole property and ran out of the Walmart, and now he hitched a ride from you, and you're not aware of any of that. And I'm not going to explain it to you at this window and let him hear it, because to keep myself safe, I don't want him to know really there's a whole lot going on. So it may be as simple as, "Hey, Mr. Paris, you mind coming back here and talk to me for a second?" Now, if we build this villain in our mind that the police are villains, that's difficult. But when you know that that's not the truth, in 99.9999999% of police, no big deal. I'll step out and talk to you.
Mm-hmm. Geography is biography. I've said that before. And where you're from, going to determine that narrative in that first encounter you have with police. What you've witnessed.
I'd say it plays into it some, yeah.
Some or a lot?
Yeah, some. Because if we start looking at we start looking at real statistics on what police have been villains, it's
Minimal.
a grain of salt in a pepper
Sure.
bowl.
100%. I believe that with my whole heart.
So yes, there are places, but they're so.
So I've told you before, I've lived a couple lives, especially as a child. And in that first life, cops were the ones who got you in trouble.
Sure.
Now, you look back and go, no, you little punk kid, you got yourself in trouble. You did that thing. You picked up that rock. You threw it through that window 4 houses down from where you lived. Mm-hmm. You're the one who ran. No, the police doesn't get you in trouble. Your bad decisions do. Okay, but in that, you've already seen, drunk people do mean things. Cops showed up. That's my family. The cops are taking away my family, and your 6-year-old brain is processing cops is bad.
Yeah.
Later on in life, the only time I'm seeing cops is waving in the neighborhood, right? Or, stopped because you were speeding. My bad, Mr. Officer. Totally understand the ticket.
Yeah. Is that genealogy more than geography?
Genealogy? What do you mean?
Like that, you didn't describe anything based on geography right there. It was how do your people who you watched growing up react with the police, or interact with the police?
Well, I understand what you mean by genealogy and those people, but those people are living on that side of town, and then I moved on the other side of town. So we could fit it in either box. I get what you're saying. Sure. I think you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. I grew up in South Bradley County, man. I didn't wake up every morning as a child thinking the police were the greatest thing, and I loved that profession. And that was not the case. Yeah. We were poor folks, man. You got to watch out for those guys. You slow down when you see them. They'll get you. Yeah. I kind of get what you mean. I
get you now. Hey, plenty of people say, I'll never be a teacher because they hate going to school, and then look what happens.
Yeah.
I hear you. All right. Yeah, those scenarios are inevitable for us as we have this conversation. Zooming back in. I'm going back to your belt. Okay. Anything else? Anything else? Standard issue?
Radio.
Yeah.
I got to communicate.
So if I say choice of weapons, though, that's on your belt. Is that a weapon? Or is that, but you're saying that's an essential?
Yeah. When you say, let's go to your belt, and then you use the word weapon. Yeah, I'm going.
Yeah.
Gun, taser, baton.
What else you got? Anything that I'm unaware
of? We've talked about pepper spray.
Knife?
Yeah, I always carried a good knife on patrol, especially.
Always as a tool or as a weapon?
As a tool.
Yeah.
As a tool.
See, that's a different conversation too. What other? You got any other tools on your belt?
Yeah. Now there are some people that especially you get into like ex-military guys or SWAT guys. They'll throw a K-bar knife, like a knife that a Marine would carry on them somewhere as that last resort.
I don't know,
but I never walked myself that far through the scenarios.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot has happened if I'm down to that knife. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would see that knife, for me especially, I made sure I had a good pocket knife that was, and it was a tool, only a tool.
Yeah. All right.
It's what I'm going to cut your seatbelt with if you get in a crash and I can't get it out. You know what I mean?
That is an excellent, thank you. Yeah. Yeah, there you go. So that's standard issue. We're going to put you on patrol. This is what's going to be on your belt. Anything change either like year 2, year 5, year 10, or, hey, I'm a detective now. I don't have a badge on. What do you got then?
When I was a drug detective?
Yeah.
I had a smaller frame Glock, and I would just conceal carry it. I just hide it in my waistband.
Nothing else?
No. I would usually, I had a badge like on a chain. A lot of times I would have that under my t-shirt because sometimes I need to identify myself, and that's a good way to do it. Because, when you think through scenarios for like a drug detective, you have to consider those moments where you're doing some sort of brief undercover work and the police get called. I need to be able to to differentiate. I need to be able to identify myself. If I'm on a police exercise of any sort and I'm not wearing a police uniform, there's a whole nother skill set, a whole nother body of knowledge to know how to act in the scenario when the police should kick in a door and you're in the house, or the police should respond to whatever it is.
Did you just kick my door in again?
Kicked your door
Yes,
in.
you did. I didn't even
Kicked
do
your door in.
anything.
Yeah. But yeah, you need to be able to identify yourself pretty quick, or learn how to be very cooperative and not get hurt because they're responding to, what we could scenario this to death, but typically they're responding to some sort of drug deal or drug dealer, and you're on scene in blue jeans and a ball cap. So it's very likely that your best move is on your face with your hands up. You know what I mean?
Nope. Every time you ask me that, that's a real question for me. No, I'm
Yeah.
learning.
Yeah.
I'm learning. So SWAT, did you never have any aspirations to be part of a SWAT team?
No.
Never once?
No.
You got some buddies?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Still do. Yeah.
What's that look like? What's their training look like? What's their
It's a lot more.
what's their choice of weapons is where that's the lane I'm staying in right now. Give the people something. Educate a guy like me.
I mean, it's very similar to what a patrolman has, just stepped up a little bit. But now you get into a SWAT team, you have to have specialists. You have people that are snipers, people that specialize in breaching doors. So they're doing minor explosives. They've got, typically in a police agency, you want them to have the best of the best,
I don't know what that is though.
Yeah, I could tell you what rifles those guys are carrying. I just don't really want to tell. I don't know if someone would want me to tell that on something that I'm going to release to the public.
I've been waiting for you to crash into that sentence right there.
Yeah, I was there when they were delivered, and it was they're really good and they're really nice. And those guys, even on this little old 110,000 people in our county, somewhat out in the country compared to a lot of places, we got a SWAT team they can do what they need to do. They make your town a lot safer. Should someone do something that would require their response, you're good. You're good. You're good.
Okay. Choice of weapons. Yeah, see, that's an education for a guy like me. You know that already.
We haven't got in my car yet.
What?
We haven't got away from my belt and went to my patrol car yet.
Well, go, man.
That's where the fun stuff is.
Well,
I've got an AR-15 in the trunk. I've got a 12-gauge shotgun over my head, and I had for a long time, Paul, and they took them from us. But for a long time, we were issued refurbished World War II 1911 pistols.
Okay. Why?
Oh, because we got them. The government just started handing these things out to agencies that would apply for it. It worked almost like a grant, I guess. But
and then they got taken back.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
And then,
but
if all those are taken back, then where do they go after that?
I don't know.
They've already been refurbished.
They might have sold them. I don't know.
Yeah.
They weren't. I'll be honest with you. I had to do some work on mine to even get it to fire. They were refurbished, but they weren't the ramp where the bullet goes into the tube. We had to sort of file on that because it's rough. These things.
Poor GIs.
Well,
it's one thing to be on patrol. It's another thing to be, in northern Italy.
Yeah, but once you do the work to these, they're as good as most technology now. These things were awesome.
Did you say 1911?
Yeah, that's the model.
Okay.
That's not the year.
Okay, thank you. That makes me feel...
Anybody who knows...
Because you said World War II and then you said 1911.
Yeah,
okay.
Anybody who knows pistols knows a model 1911. It's just a setup.
You just implied that you're clueless, Paul, and just wanted to reiterate.
Well,
No, I am.
People come to me because I was the police and they ask me all these gun questions, and I'm always like, I don't know. I didn't study guns.
Yeah.
I'm not the guy that goes home and like reads gun magazines. I'm not that guy. I ran into that at Ocoee Middle. There's a couple guys there that were those nerds. You know, they were competition shooting and doing some fun stuff. They'd go out, hang out on the weekends. They go to a gun range, and I'm like,
not your thing.
It's not my thing. No.
Yeah.
No.
Was it ever?
No.
Yeah.
No. I know what weapons I was trained with and trained in. I knew pretty well and could use them fairly well, and that's it. It was a work tool.
Yeah.
For me.
Work tool. I may bring that phrase back.
Okay.
It's a weapon, but it's a work tool.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Because I'm gonna, I've used it 1,000,000 times without pulling the trigger. You know what I mean?
No.
You don't?
Because you've been to the range? Is that what you're saying?
No. You pull those things a lot. Anytime I get hey, we came home and my door's open. Well, what's coming out? That tool. Everywhere my eyes go, that barrel's going. That flashlight's going with it. Hey, there's a stolen car going down the street. Well, you're making a felony traffic stop at that point. Guess what's coming out? That thing's going downrange before your words do. So you use it a lot.
So what's the order of operations? Probably not the right phrase. The order of choice. So you got these other things in your vehicle. When are you grabbing those things? Why are you grabbing those things? And let's scenario this one.
The shotgun or the rifle.
Yeah.
Those are, if I'm in a fight, I'm fighting my way to those,
No, set that up for me.
Should lightning strike and a police officer ends up in an actual gunfight, first thing he's going to do is move, not be where he is now. That's number one, get off the X, get off the spot. He's going to fight to cover. And if it's not over right now, he's going to be thinking of, where's this rifle? I've got to, if I'm outgunned, I got to catch up. And if I'm even, I need to get ahead. Someone's shooting at me. So that rifle, oftentimes in the trunk of that patrol car or somewhere in that patrol car, if he can get to that, he's got the advantage now, you see? Because if me and you get in a gunfight and you've got a rifle and I've got a pistol, even with more training than you, I'm not in a good spot. A rifle's dangerous. Even if it's just someone's got their daddy's deer rifle. They can aim that thing pretty good. And that barrel's long. It's like holds it steady for you a little bit. I don't want to fight that thing with a pistol. I need a rifle to do it.
So on duty, you ever been in a situation like that?
No.
Never. 13 years?
No. No, the closest I came to pulling a trigger, there wasn't even another gun involved. It was a mental health patient that had a knife in each hand. And my partner was, standoff's the wrong word, but he was within about 30 feet. And he's trying to negotiate with this woman. Hey, put those knives down. Please put the knives down. And at some point, he's gun drawn because at 30 feet, you're in danger. We got to, they refer in training to the 21-foot rule. If you, especially you're an athlete. If you're within 21 feet of me, you could get to me with a knife before I could draw down and shoot you. It's tested and tested.
It's from the baseline to the 3-point line, buddy.
There's a 21-foot rule that if I'm in a certain range and there's a uncooperative person with a weapon of any sort, now gun different, but I'm talking baseball bats, knives, whatever. I'm drawn.
Yeah.
And I need you to choose your steps like really good right now because I don't want to shoot you. And anyways, that's the closest I ever came is she was doing some of these right here. So he was staying back 30, 35 feet. She wasn't an athlete either. But I thought she's going to charge my partner with these two knives, and I'm out of options. This lady's trying to jump in and out of traffic. She's a mental health patient. She's suicidal. She's homicidal. She's trying to commit suicide by a cop is what's running through my mind. Yeah, that's the closest I ever came.
She laid those down?
She did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talked her out of them.
Wow.
That's all. We were just buying him time to negotiate. That's why we're not popping out and doing a show of force situation because that you never know. That may help. It may hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a place off the side of the driveway in some woods. She had no clue I was there, but I was within about 15 feet to her side profile. And she was getting to the point where I'm like, God, please, lady. But she did. She laid him down.
So, choice of weapons as a sheriff, not a police officer.
Okay.
Humor me on this next one.
All right.
You've come across some criminals.
Yeah.
You've put some people away.
Yeah.
You have rolled up in some situations and you did not know how it was going to play out.
Okay.
Let alone end.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, like, I don't know, whatever state of mind they were in, silly, stupid, probably even mentally insane. Still right?
Yes.
But other folks, I mean, it was violent. Like they were in a place where they were ready to either throw fisticuffs or they had something they were about to use as a weapon. Or something that they had purchased and they had a weapon. What are some of the things you've come across when you've encountered folks in these situations? What have people used as weapons? Matt Paris, real life, in the real world, rolled up. And oh my word, that person has a
gun, knife, machete, fists, baseball bats, lamps, vases.
Please keep going. Please. As many as you can spit out. Keep going.
I'm trying to think of something goofy.
No, just keep stream of consciousness and then we'll pull a few out.
That's pretty deep. That's pretty deep there. That's all I got.
Machete?
Yeah.
I think you've told me that story. I don't know if you've told the people that story.
I haven't released it to anybody. I've recorded it. Yeah, I had an informant that I had wired up. I say that with quote fingers. And had set up a deal for him to go buy heroin. And unbeknownst to me, the people he was going to buy from, he had some beef with a mutual acquaintance. Well, this was a setup for him, and we totally missed it. Of course, he could have helped us a lot with that, and he didn't. But, we take him in there, and he gets chased down 14th Street with a machete.
And
so that was a time that I had to pull that chain out from under my shirt and identify myself and draw that weapon because, at some point this is not a little old mental lady. This is a guy he's a unit. He was jacked. He could have handled me probably like a little kid. He's a big old boy. He had a machete in his hand. So it's one of those times I used that tool without pulling the trigger.
But
he made this.
Oh, go ahead.
Say it again.
No, you go.
He made the beautiful choice of cooperation.
Yeah.
So
Thanks.
Yeah.
That's why you're still here today.
That's right.
Did you say candlestick or you said something in there?
Oh, vases and lamp.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just, domestic violence, domestic situations. Always someone throwing a lamp or breaking a lamp or a vase. I almost said vase. I had my grandmother in mind.
Please do it.
I will not.
I heard you say gun.
Yeah.
How'd that go down?
Well, I told the story pretty recently about the police chase and the guys loading a gun going down the road.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was one. And then another story I told of the domestic where, hey, he's looking for me. He's got his gun, and God just shone his hand down on me and put me in exactly the right spot to be able to subdue that gun.
Yeah.
And that guy. What his intentions were, I don't know. But yeah.
Somebody take a swing at you?
Yeah. A couple times probably. I mean, I worked in the jail inside the jail for 4 years. So yeah.
How are you handling that? Are you taking a blow and then giving one back, or?
No, I was pretty quick on the trigger, Paul. We've even had this conversation before of
We have.
if I think you're going to swing at me, I'm probably going to put myself in some position of advantage. So I was always pretty lucky. Closest I ever came to getting whipped was by one of the smallest guys I ever got into it with. Just a little squirrely, wiry meth head. And he had
Is this
got
in the
out.
jail, or is this on?
Yeah, this is in the
Yeah.
booking office. We'd let him out to make a phone call, and he gets crazy with some of the deputies that were up there. I'm back in the fingerprint room, and I can hear him cussing someone like a dog. Well, they're trying to get him to go back in his cell because we've got another arrestee coming in. Well, he's not having it. So as I'm going over trying to talk him into his cell, I give him one of these little, people who can't see me. I'm holding my hand to his shoulder, just trying to give hey man, just go in here. We'll talk about this here in a minute. And he like snatches at my hand and pushes me. And I'm 21 years old and full of piss and vinegar, and I'm not having this.
Piss and vinegar.
So I get.
Hold on. I can't handle piss and vinegar. What in the world? Huh?
They don't say that in North Carolina or
South Carolina,
Ohio,
or Cleveland, Tennessee, as far as I know.
They 1,000% say it in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Give me one other person that says that phrase.
Everybody I grew up with.
One. Name a name.
Let's see. Who told somebody, an
Please.
adult in my life one time looked at me and said, well, you're just full of piss and vinegar, ain't you? I can't remember who it was. But, yeah, my granddad, my dad, my mom would, I don't know if my mom would say.
Yeah, because I was about to say. All right, back to the squirrely guy. Go.
Mm-hmm. Anyways, I end up in a tussle with this guy. And this is before a whole lot of police-based defensive tactics training. This is just a 21-year-old we threw in this jail who has some mild wrestling experience from high school. So I run this guy to the back wall of this cell, and just the most perfect hip toss you've ever seen. And I've got a head and an arm, and we're on the ground now. And I'm just trying to get him to cool, and I'm going to get up, leave him in the cell, shut the door. Well, he's not having it. He's got his hand around, and he's clawing with his dirty fingernails at my eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
And his head slips out, and now he's behind. I've still got his arm. And so we end up back to our feet, and I run him against the wall again and hip toss him again. And I'm okay. I'm in a better position now, but he's got his dang hooks, and he's scratching the crap out of my eyes. Like he's not in my eyeball yet.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the first time that I threw punches with a prisoner. Because usually we we can control these people without punching and kicking and hurting people. But I was in a spot and I start punching him. And it wasn't long after that help came in and they handled him pretty well. But he was squirrely. He was hard to hang on to. Let's put it that way. I controlled him pretty well. He was fighting. His choice of weapons was those dirty fingernails.
That's a weapon.
But I remember that was, I mentioned those hepatitis B shots in another conversation. I was like in the middle of one of those rounds. You know, that's a 90-day round of shots and you're trying to gain immunity to hepatitis B. And I remember coming out of that cell and I've got blood all over my shirt. And they take me to the nurse's office. I have to strip down. I have to get a change of clothes. Then I had to go do some tests because he had cut up my face with his fingernails.
Are you nervous?
It was his blood on me from his nose, I guess.
You ain't guessing.
But yeah, then Mike Cooper, who I've mentioned before, and I love that guy, and he probably saved my career a few times, but he calls me into the office and he's like, listen, I get it. You're a big boy. You can handle yourself, but we got to get you some training, man. You're going to hurt somebody.
He said those things.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, hip tossing people. I mean, if you could see what I'm talking about by a hip toss, this is someone's, you know, your feet's brushing the ceiling. That's just not a good way to handle the public.
Get out of here. Choice of weapons, man. That's what we've been talking about. There's a guy by the name of Gordon Parks. I know you've heard of him because you and I have talked about him. Mm-hmm. But he's also a guy that he's a photographer. Life magazine, first black photographer, but he becomes so much more than that. He becomes the photographer for Life magazine during the civil rights movement and so far beyond. He'll go into Chicago and just spend time with the gang leader there. You know any gang leaders from Chicago from back in the, 60s or 70s? Do you know much about, I shouldn't even ask this question in this way because I know you do. How much did you deal with gangs when you had a badge on? Is that something totally separate or?
No,
especially. Tell me more about your experience with gangs.
Mostly in the jail because we've got local prisoners there and we have a federal contract at the time. So we've got prisoners coming from all over East Tennessee, you know, from Johnson City to Knoxville to Chattanooga. So we're bumping into some people who claim affiliation with gangs and would even wear certain tattoos and have certain, all the way down to certain eating habits. They were just different. And sometimes they were okay to house together. Sometimes they were not. And you had to sort of educate yourself a little bit on that climate in order to, maintain a safe facility. You can't put a vice lord in with just anybody. Those guys are wild.
Gangs in Cleveland, Tennessee.
Yeah, Gangster Disciples. GD it's a bigger one than you'd want to be comfortable with. And then our proximity to Chattanooga keeps us bumping into certain, the Crip, the folks, the vice lords, whatever. And then you have, white supremacy type groups, people walking around with cracker bolts tattooed on their back and their forearms. And they have a certain affinity to like an Adolf Hitler or some of his views, all the way, fast forward from him all the way to like the Ku Klux Klan. There are people still walking around with that idiocy living in their mind as a way of life.
Klan. Is the Klan considered a gang? They considered a terrorist group?
Today?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, they're still around. I know that.
Yeah. I mean, there's certain criteria that if we start talking correctional facilities, which is where these, it's sort of a melting pot,
Yeah.
because these people come there and it's not by choice. There's certain criteria associated with considering someone a gang member. And if you wear the tattoos of a gang, you meet the criteria right now.
Mm.
If you verbally claim affiliation, you would accrue a certain number of points toward being a confirmed gang member. If you have or create any correspondence that speaks of a gang, that would acquire you certain points toward affiliation. So yes, if you come in and said, yeah, I'm a member of the Ku Klux Klan, then yeah,
Are you?
we're gonna
I'm sorry,
consider
man.
you a
Today.
gang member. Yeah, it's
So are you
allergy
treated?
season.
Are you treated differently as soon as you walk through those doors, or as soon as that is discovered about you? Or you?
It becomes part of your classification. I mean, I won't say that you're treated differently, but
Yeah, I'll talk more about classifications. Yeah,
yeah, I mean,
that's
it's
what I mean.
when you go into a jail facility, you have a jacket or a file that is associated with you, and gang affiliation is going to become part of that, and it's gonna flag in certain ways. If they try to put you in a certain housing unit, whoever that classification officer is would be aware of what other gangs or people are in that housing unit that you may be incompatible with. So there's always eyes on that sort of thing, man. Uh, there's a lot to running a jail, and that's a big part of it is knowing what gangs you have present, who can be housed with who can't, all those kind of things.
Wow.
And sometimes it's as simple as, especially you get two guys from Cleveland, and everything looks like they can't be housed together. There are times in a small facility with limited space, you have to go to those people and say, "Hey, you know this guy?" They're like, "Yeah, we went to elementary school together. We don't associate, but we're fine." You get both of those dudes saying that, and sometimes there has to be this level of okay, we're going to take your take your word for it.
Mm. Wow.
Because you don't just have unlimited beds at a county jail.
Yeah. I mean, we studied gangs in sociology,
Yeah.
right? You're a sociologist, you're a counselor,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. The skill set it takes to navigate that world that you, Matt Paris, navigated, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Well, I wish I could go back and relive those 20s again with this 41-year-old
Sure you do.
mind.
We all do, buddy.
Because when we start talking about managing gangs in a facility, that opens up this whole treasure trove of just all the other things, all the mental health conditions that you navigate.
Yeah.
I navigated one. There was a 22-year-old fella who had just robbed a gas station in Cleveland, Tennessee, took a shotgun in and said, "I don't want to hurt anybody. I just need the money. Give me the money. Nobody gets hurt." Walked out with the money and left. He was arrested. He's put in jail. Well, they house him, and I had dealt with him at booking. I spent a lot of time in booking. That's kind of that's the guidance office of a jail. Booking is the heart of it, man. Everything
I've
happens.
never heard you say it that way, but yeah.
Everything happens in booking. That's the heart of a facility, especially a local facility. And I had spent some time with this guy in booking, just going through the process, and was very personal with him. He was personable with me. We probably weren't that different in age. I would have probably been mid to late 20s. He's early 20s. I had a young son, a young wife at home. I find out through the booking process, he's got a young baby at home, and he's trying to build this life, and he's run up on these walls. Just everywhere he goes, he's hit a wall. He's just, he's made up all these, not made up, but he has all these problems in his mind that he can't overcome. And it leads him down this path, and he finds himself stealing money at force, and he's going to that's how you go to prison. You hold somebody up at gunpoint and take their money. You're going to prison. And he knows it. They call me when we send him to housing, we put him in a federal pod. Part of that was my doing, because in this pod, you had some people that were in jail, and they're probably in jail for a long time. And it tended to be no, I'm sorry. I jumped ahead in the story. We put him in a general housing pod, which would be just your local county jail prisoners. Some of them are waiting to go to court. Some of them are here for, violating their probation. And some of them are here for, DUI, domestic assault, all these little short-term problems. So we put him back there, and he immediately starts getting in a war of words with these people. So they call it out. I go down there, and it's this guy. And I talk to him, and through conversation, I come to the realization that he'd probably be okay if we just put him in a federal pod, because there's long-term prisoners in there. And now I know I've taken this story a long way from gang leaders in Chicago, but this is just where my thoughts went.
Yeah, this is the stuff, man. This is the juice.
They call me, and I decide that, hey, can we just put him in C pod? This pod's full of federal prisoners. They know they're in jail for a good while, and that they tend to be a lot more laid back. If you come in there acting like a weekender, I'm just here doing a weekend for DUI, I'm gonna act a fool, they'll set you down. You understand that concept? These are young dudes, but they're old timers as far as jail goes. They want you to come in, sit down to a peaceful card game, not cause problems with the pod officer, not be doing a bunch of stupid stuff. So we put him in there, and I remember talking to him right before I was about to leave there, and I said, "Hey man, you good? Like for real, you good in here?" He was like, "Yeah, I'll be fine in here." And I'll never forget, he turned around and looked at me and had a tear in his eye. I was like, "You sure you're good?" And he was like, "Dude, I'm good. I just need some peace and quiet for a few minutes, to be honest with you." And it was so believable. So believable. So I leave him there. And that night at about 2:00 in the morning, my phone rings. And they're like, "Hey, you remember this guy?" I'm like, "Yeah." He hung himself in the shower.
Wow.
So when you say the skill set to navigate that, you're dead on. You're dead on. And that's what leads me to say, I wish I could go back to those mid-20s and with a 41-year-old brain, and for moments like that. Because now I've beat myself up and did this and that and played the blame game with myself plenty of time. And I always come to the realization that, like, what would I have done different? Probably no. I had no other indicators. I don't know. Anyways, I just rabbit trailed for 5 minutes.
No, because that's where we're going to land this. Because when Gordon Parks titles his autobiography Choice of Weapons, it not only is a conversation about weapons, it's a conversation about the fight. And that's what we're talking about. If we're fighting for justice, right? If we're fighting for just the righteous way for a community to be able to thrive, certain things have to be done. Certain fights have to be fought. Gordon Parks, he went into Harlem and he hung out with a gang leader for a whole entire month and just sees this young fella interact day after day after day after day. Yeah, he is leading this gang. Yeah, they are violent. But yeah, he is trying to not only survive, but he's helping other people in his own way attempt to survive. And it kind of comes back to what you were just saying of just like that, this mental health kind of idea, this whole social system that has been created, the holes in the system, the people that still need to be helped, that a Gordon Parks would go in and use his pen and use his camera to tell this story and say, hey, essentially, thank you, Ken Burns, 1 + 1 = 3. Like, yes, this is a gang. Yes, there is violence. Yes, there is something wrong. Yes, this is unhealthy. Yes, seems as if there's potential that something could turn here. And if you can get someone like this to lead that, man, what if he had a different opportunity to lead in another way? And it was just very powerful. It still speaks to me. I mean, it's just a whole just compartment in my brain of going, choice of weapon. What am I going to choose today? Bible talks about that the weapon of our tongue. I mean, it can do some damage, man.
Sure.
Destruction, yes. Construction as well. We've talked about those lines before, but I would like to return back to this at another time and piece some things together about what it means. But I'm just fascinated by your life. I say it all the time. I learn something every time that you get rolling. You call it chasing rabbits, but it's not, man. It's an education. But to see you at 41, friend to friend, there's no regrets.
Sure.
But there is a reminder from those really hard experiences to a greater awareness of the moments that we're now in, so that when hard does hit, we're going to respond with even more force because we have a different skill set now, and we have more weapons to fight these kind of good fights, and may we continue to do so. I appreciate you sharing, man. That was a lot from you today, and some of it was personal.
Yeah.
But I always appreciate that piece. But
man, that's downright mindful. You've been listening to Downright Mindful with your hosts, Matt Paris and Paul Salzville. Produced by Josh Morris. Intro and outro production by Derek Kinsey. You can find us wherever fine podcasts are downloaded. Thanks for listening.